What is up, GBA fans? Welcome back for your Week 4 power rankings for the GBA. We had a lot of very hacksy games this week, to say the least. A lot of interesting end games that happened. But let's hop right into it, and we're going to start with Old Man Tup in our number 16, so I'll let Jar talk about that.
Yep, it definitely was the week of hacks, and the first game we're going to talk about is definitely not an exception to that. A lot of hacks towards the end game. Not a lot of hacks, but hacks that could have definitely influenced the game. But I just want to start with like the basic stuff we always do. I just want to start with Tup's prep. The first thing I noticed was that I didn't really agree with the Tangaberry Tangrowth. I don't know if Aster will back me up here, because Dan doesn't have any real bug spam necessarily. And so everything that hit it is going to hit it is just going to be hitting it with coverage. So I don't know if just Leftovers or Rocky Helmet would have been better. That's just my opinion, though, because Leftovers could have increased its durability since it was just a physically defensive variant for the most part. The Scizor, Tup was talking about how it can break through Dan's team, but like Dan had a lot of good checks to that in the Toxapex and the Gliscor. I don't know if just SD or just a U-turn variant, like just to get momentum, not so much break through Dan's walls, because that wasn't really what Scizor's job was this game. The Hydreigon, Ground EMZ is cool. It's cool to have Z moves, but 2 Life Orb Earth Powers actually kills Toxapex, so not sure if the Ground EMZ was the best call. I know I've already said it, I'm not a huge Life Orb fan, but I mean, I've ran Life Orb before. Sometimes you just have to run. I'm still not a huge fan of it, but I mean, sometimes that little extra power on every single move you click is so big. Also, Dan doesn't have a real Draco switching, so besides the Clef, but yeah. Slowking set was actually really good. This is something I want to pride Tup on, and like encourage him to do more in this future. That Slowbro set, he recognized Dan's team was all physical, and that was such a smart bring on his set. Slowbro would have been a little bit better for it. I think I said Slowbro, but it's Slowking. It was Iron Defense if you saw the game, and it could have really swept Dan's team at the end of that game if there was a few unfortunate pairs that didn't happen. However, Tup said it best himself in that game. If the Victini had not paralyzed the Slowking with a Bolt Strike, Dan could have beat it easier with the Toxapex Toxicking it, but the parry did help him a little bit. However, it did get paralyzed at the most unfortunate times. On Tup's play, this has kind of been a few of his shortcomings have come here in the past few weeks. He seemed to lose every 50-50 versus that Toxapex, you know, Aster, like, he seemed to like miss every single time that he wanted to click a move on that Toxapex. The paras were unfortunate. I definitely wanted to see how that game would have gone without them. I don't think you could say he was put in a better position because he was paralyzed. I think that's completely viable to say, but that's my kind of thought process. I think Toxicking it would have been better for Dan, but he got paralyzed. Paralysis hurt him. Weird to call that game, definitely.
Honestly, I don't think Tup played badly. I think the very first para that happened probably hindered him a lot more because it forced him into sacking his Hydreigon, which eventually led him up to losing his Tapu Koko, which could have been his win condition against that Toxapex in the late game. So that was the big one for me. Solid prep on Tup's part. I think keeping the Hydreigon around a little bit longer, knowing that he needed to weaken Dan's team for the Slowking sweep. Very nice. Making a correct prediction on Dan staying in with the Gliscor, on that one turn with the HP Ice with the Tapu Koko. I want to keep seeing this from Tup. We don't have to see that bold prediction be proven wrong. I believe it was Dallas Staryu that said no one would go 6-0 or 0-6 after the first half of the season, and at the moment Tup is slowly inching his way there. Haxy losses happen, but he has to keep his chin up. He has to keep prepping and playing the way that he did this week. I think he did a much better job, but unfortunately the 0-4 record lands him at both of our number 16 spots.
I mean, you got to give him credit, though. If anyone's going to keep their head up, you know it's going to be Tup. Cool guy, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Moving on to Steve. So, Steve here, I just want to say, when you see that your Moonblast isn't breaking Kyurem's sub, it can probably wall your Cresselia completely for days, Steve. Battler X. Staying in the whole time was questionable. I understand that he didn't want anything else getting toxic, but you can clearly see that this Kyurem is built to take on your special attackers, so you should switch into... You have a Guts Hariyama. Just force it out. Just switch out into your Guts Hariyama on the turn you know he's going to go for sub, and he probably won't stay in for more than one turn. So that's what I got to say to Steve. Other than that, the Xurkitree set was really, really good. I really like that. While Crimson did have a couple of endgame checks to it, such as Sylveon, which would not go down to a +1 a Thunderbolt in electric terrain, I believe, even though it was a choice
speed
spec
boost, so it wouldn't have been +1. It would have just been electric terrain boosted Thunderbolt, which is essentially special, I believe.
I mean if he got a kill with his Xurkitree, right?
Beast boost, right?
Yeah, exactly, the Beast boost. But he also had the Kirim, which would have lived an unboosted hidden power fighting from the range that it was at, but it was still a very nice set, and he was setting up for it very well. But once again, this is another one of our Haxie games where unfortunately the Mimikyu missed a play rough on the Crocodile, allowing it to live and continue to be a nuisance to Steve's team. And I think while the game would have probably played out a lot differently, and I think the outcome would have still been the same, I think that Battler X would have saved some differential, definitely, in the end. And I feel bad that we have to put him at 15th, but that is where we have him this week.
Yeah, I actually thought about what you said. We did go over that at the end. We're like, could this Xurkitree have swept through Crimson's team? We kind of discovered that he still had a few late game checks, and we kind of agreed overall that the battle probably would have ended the same. But, I mean, you look at Steve's team, again, I think it's that more holding him back than his actual prep. I mean, we said at the draft analysis he did not have a Dark Resist. It's a good thing that did not hurt him this week at all. He has the Xurkitree, which was a very good set. We mentioned that in draft analysis as well. I'm pretty sure I talked about the Electrium Z Electric Terrain, which gives that speed boost, and you can definitely pick up kills with the Beast boost. It's a very, very good set. Mimikyu actually had a really good matchup, so that play rough miss was super unfortunate. Crimson does not have great switch-ins to a Life Orb Mimikyu. Swampert does not get recovery, so using that as a check is very shaky, but he was packing Wish support to try and support it. Unfortunately, Crimson has probably the best taunter in the game, besides maybe Crobat and Tornadus, so he was able to shut that shit down real quick. Hariyama, a lot of HP, not a lot of defense, not too bulky without its Assault Vest, but it could have put in some work this game. I'm waiting for Steve to bring me around to the Hariyama. I'm ready to get on that train. His play, Steve, I agree. Aster's completely right. Once that Kirin was setting up subs, you need to get out of there. That thing was clearly could have just like 1v1'd your team from the very beginning if it could set up subs on Crest all day. Taunt was more obvious from Torn than I think you thought because, I mean, dude, you have a Crest. Things are going to run Taunt, period. That's just how it goes. However, the big turn clearly, gotta talk about it. Player of miss. Cost Steve, he got his old luck back thrown back at him. Let the Crook pick up Moxie Boost late game and end up just tearing through his team with EQ after the Cresselia was dead. But, I mean, Battler X prepped and played a little better this week. We'll see if we can move him up. Like I said, he still has the possibility to, I believe, what does it go? 9-3? 9-3 I think is the best he can do. Is there 12 weeks?
Yeah, exactly.
So, well, he'll get to 13 if he can get there. But until then, we're going to repeat that fucking joke, and we're going to move on to number 14, which is Geo. So Geo has had a very rough go of it lately. I don't think anyone would question that. Still rolling with a bit of his slide. Very solid team prep, actually. I really enjoyed his team prep. He had a very clear concept. Something Envy's team can't switch into, right, period. And that's, again, somebody trying to take advantage of Envy's lack of a real wall. However, I know he wasn't scared of Virizion, but in hindsight, if he would have looked back at his team at the end, the only thing on his team that stopped Virizion was Gengar. So if that was gone, he was going to get swept by the Virizion, which kind of happened towards that late game. I don't know if Dark Pulse was as good on the Helio list this game. I think Focus Blast would have been better. Envy's kind of showed his hand versus fast electric types. He's going to have a bulkier Magnezone and a Scarf Landorus. I mean, that's literally what it's been when another team has a fast electric type, or it's going to be Yachi Landorus. He's brought, I think, Yachi and Scarf every single week. So, yeah, up for now. Play, second week in a row. I feel like I'm more critiquing the person Envy's playing. Like, Geo this week, he just over-predicted so much. Like, when you're under the Trick Room, you just gotta start throwing off hits. And I know you want to make predictions to get yourself in a good position, because when you're going up against somebody who is the caliber of player Envy is, you feel like you need to make a prediction to get ahead. And while that is true some of the time, other times when he clearly was just trying to sack that Magnezone to you because it did not put in a lot of work versus your team, you really could have pulled off that win, Geo, because you got up the Trick Room twice, and if you could have picked up 3 kills, that's the game right there, because he had no switches to that right period. Unfortunately, it wasn't in Geo's cards this week. However, I do like what I saw for the most part, and I think he can pick it up. I think he can run with this.
Yeah, honestly, I think Geo just played himself. There's nothing else to say. It's Envy. We'll talk more about it when we get to Envy, but Geo, I'm not seeing improvement, but I didn't see anything too bad either. It was really just the mispredictions, the over-predicting in the early game, which cost him, and losing the Gengar, especially because of that Virizion. Shoutouts to me for the Virizion pick, by the way. I just want to put it up.
Oh my god, you just did that again.
Yeah,
every week with you.
Every week. We got to do it at least once, you know? So I'm going to do it early this week. Just going to get that in. But yeah, Geo, I want to see you not over-predicting as much. That's really all I have to say. So moving on, next up we have Duncan in the number 13 spot for me, and you have him up at number 12.
Just one spot. Just one.
Yeah, just a one spot difference. And actually, all of our power rankings this week are only one spot off from each other. So that's really interesting.
It is a common theme this week along with the hacks.
Yeah, exactly. And Duncan, once again, I have not moved from the 13th spot. He definitely brought some really cool sets this week. The Grand Bull in the endgame could have put a lot of work in and come through once Togekiss was gone. But, of course, George had the Tech Taunt, which we'll, again, talk about later when we get to him. But Duncan, again, not showing me anything too terrible. He didn't play horribly. I believe he got 3-0'd, but he didn't prove to me that he's excelling and that he's getting any better. So...
Yeah, I really don't know what to say about Duncan's prep because I do not believe his video has been uploaded at this point. I don't believe. He was kind of rocking a mono setup, so I did most of my scouting from George's side. But, I mean, it's just too bad he doesn't have a very reliable defogger for something like T-Spikes. But what are you going to do? You have to work with what you draft. So, it's too bad he doesn't have that. I mean, it would really help him. Again, though, not sure how much I could say because I didn't hear his thought process or get to see the plays from his perspective. But by clicking moves because you don't expect to live was the big thing for me with the Celebi. That was the only real mistake that I could really gather. He played most of the game really well. I think it was just, like we always say, like, prep is 70% of these games, and George beat him in that aspect and won the game because of it. And so that's all I can say about Duncan because he, again, video not up, but hopefully it will be soon. We can get a little more thought process, help our power rankings next week. But for now, we're going to move on to my number 13, your number 12 in It's Gator. And Gator went up against another very tough opponent. Gator's actually got one of the harder schedules in the league, as well as, we'll get to him a little bit later. But I don't know if this game was as much of a reflection as Gator as it was on Mono. But overall, Gator did fine, honestly. I just want to see him win some games before moving him up. He has some innovation, and he definitely has the skill. We both know that. Because he only has 2 rockers, though, so he was forced to come this... So Heatran was forced to come this week when it really didn't have a super good matchup. Like anything, it was just kind of snack bait, and it got blown back by that Greninja real quick, so it wasn't too good for that. But, you know, just thinking about it, a Scarf Dig wasn't a bad bring on Gator, but if you saw how Mono has been talking about Buzzwole, I think Mono mentions every goddamn week how it's bulkier than Skarmory. Could have probably seen that coming. Kamala was interesting, still not a huge Kamala fan, so we'll see about that. But the Latios set, and this is very key for me with Gator because it shows his innovation. Like, that was actually a really smart Latios set. It's just, I feel like his team is holding him back more so than his actual prep. I don't think that his team gives him a lot of room to be creative like somebody like Envy or Chimp's team does. But that's all I have for Gator. Like I said, his play was fine. I just think it was more reflection on Mono's prep to win that game than it was on Gator's play itself.
Yeah, Mono had a great switch into the Kamala, and even if it was healthy enough, Buzzwole was healthy enough, then he had a great switch into the Diggersby as well. So I think it was really just more, again, like you said, Gator's team holding him back. But I did like the sets. I did like the fact that he instantly realized that Greninja was Specs when it took out that Heatran really early on in the game. And I like how he played around Mono a little bit. Mono did say it in his commentary, though, that Gator... because he doesn't play too much Wi-Fi, I'm not 100% sure if that's true because I don't regularly check Gator's channel, but he didn't know that the Draco had a chance to kill, the second Draco had a chance to kill the Mantine, so I think that would be something, that's something you learn visually as you gain experience playing Wi-Fi, so that's going to be something to look out for as well. Knowing that you don't have access, like on Showdown, to percentage rolls, and you don't know if something's going to guaranteed kill or not because all you see is pixels and an HP bar. But other than that, again, like you said, Gator's innovation starting to come through a little bit. I have him at number 12, and you have him at number 13. I think I only dropped him one spot, if I'm not mistaken. But I did like what I saw. I want to continue seeing it again. I did say it last week, and hopefully we start seeing some wins from him. It would be very nice to see. Moving on to my number 11, your number 10. Once again, we have an exchange right here. We have Lars and the Borussia Dawn fan. This week, Lars is really that Magearna set at the end was so clutch, and it almost came through, but unfortunately, Chimp was running a max speed Doug Trio, and it was able to take out the Magearna in the end game. Chimp did what he had to do, but we'll get to him again later. Lars, I think he played well around Chimp's team. I think he scouted everything really well. He got rid of the berries. He scouted for the Assault Vest Azumarill. He just wore down Chimp's team very well for the endgame Magirna sweep, but unfortunately, some little bit of misprep on his part, not bringing enough speed for max speed Doug Trio, did end up costing him. But that is the game that we play, and he didn't bring enough EVs, and he said it himself. It was a mistake on his part to not bring enough for that Doug Trio.
Yeah, I have Lars a little bit higher, and I just gotta explain for this, because I have him above a 2-2 team, so whenever I do this, I feel like I need to explain myself a bit. So, Lars is a good player in format. I know he is. He has a good team. Everyone kind of respects his team. He's played 3 teams that I have in the top 4. And I am still a believer in Lars because this week he was so close. And I looked up and down his prep and I was just overall, damn, this prep is pretty good. Smart bringing T-Spikes versus Chimp. The Lottie was smart. It hit almost everything on Chimp's team that was a threat super effectively. The Luke set was the only thing I had a little bit of a problem with. I'm not sure about the nasty plot really because Chimp has things that can check that pretty easily, especially with that set like Thundy. But definitely an interesting Magirna that was... First of all, I'm not sure why Lars is not 4-0 with plus 24 differential since he has a Magirna. I'm not sure why that's not a thing. But that Magirna set he brought was so close to winning that game for him at the very end. He, like you said, he played fine, but that little miss EV, I don't know if you want to call it a miss EV on Chimp's part or a miss EV on Lars's part. That'll be up for debate, I'm sure. But that is the play that cost Lars this week. He's been one play away from winning games. Trust me, Aster, I know all about being one play away from winning games. And that is what Lars is happening right now. And he can pull this back. That's why I have him higher, is because I know with this team, with his skill, with his prepping ability, he can definitely turn the season around real quick. So that's all I have for Lars. Do you have anything else to say?
Well, I mean, he's taking on Tup, I believe, next week, so it's either going to go one of 2 ways. Lars is going to start getting some wins back, or Tup is finally going to break his losing streak, so we'll see what happens there. But if you want to start us up on Dan.
Of course. So at number 11 for me, at number 10 for Aster, I have Dan, aka A-Drive. And Dan is 2-2 at the moment. However, the win versus Gator does have some controversy around it. And now so does his win versus Tup, who is currently 16th on the power rankings. I've been kind of putting a big deal on who teams beat as to whether I move them up in the power rankings or not, because that is a big part of knowing if a team's just beating like the bottom of the barrel, like they need to step up and beat the top dogs to be the top dog. I kind of said that about Callum. But I really liked Dan's glide score set in his prep, necessary in stopping a good amount of Tup's team. The Toxapex was very well built, very well played. Stressing this to Dan, he played Toxapex beautifully, scouting for the Earth Power on the Hydreigons, getting rid of Tup's Z, and very cool Mixtini. Like I said, strong mixed attackers destroy Tup's team, and there is a no better mixed attacker than Victini. But, you know, Dan saw Tup's team struggle with a strong bug type. I raise you a Galisopod, my good sir. Easy dub. But Dan played very well. Played Staraptor to the endgame perfectly just how he needed to. Won all the 50-50s, can't blame him for that. Played very well around the Nidoking. But I just want to see Dan roll with this. I want to see him pick up this baton and run with it, and I guarantee you he will continue to move up in the power rankings.
Yeah, in my opinion, he had some very basic prep. He was able to clutch out a win due to some unfortunate paras in his favor. You can go both ways with that, though, because like you said, the Toxic could come out from the Toxapex onto the Slowking later in the game. He made some very nice double switches, though, between his Toxapex and his Gliscor, like you said, which is such an annoying core, and that's something we're used to seeing from Dan, is really good double switches. Despite how simple I think his prep was, I know that Dan wasn't feeling well as well, so I'm just going to let it slide and put him up a little bit higher than you this week, I believe. And he's back to a neutral record again, and I'm really happy to see that. I'm sure his fans are too, so A-Drive Army, I hope you love me more than Jar.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Alright, moving on. Next up, we have in my number 9 and your number 8, Tom and the San Jose Sharpedos. For Tom, I really like Tom's prep once again this week. He was really not obvious that his Nidoqueen was Scarfed till much later in the game. The Seed Bomb from Celesteela was very nice, hitting the Rotom when normally a Celesteela with its stabs can't hit it. The one thing I don't understand is from Tom, and Callum said it in his commentary, was taking long with his plays midway through the game, about right after the 30-minute mark in his match, when he was down in how many mons he had left, because this did come down to a timer stall. I actually didn't watch Tom's side, unfortunately, so I don't know if you have a little bit more insight on this. I watched Callum's side, and he didn't get why Tom was taking so much time on all his moves. I understand that Pokemon is a complicated game sometimes, and you do have to take time to think about your plays, but it just seemed like if he was going to go for the timer stall, he should be the one making aggressive plays, because Callum's team was very weakened near the end.
Yeah, it definitely was. I actually do have quite a bit of insight on Tom this week, because I actually talked to him about his prep before this game, actually. I decided not to move Tom this week because I really don't know what would have happened in this game. I was a little confused because I was waiting for Cooper's retirement match, heard there was a timeout, but it was this game, so not sure what happened there. But I don't know what would have happened if this game honestly continued. Callum still had some bulk, Tom still had some offense. I'm not sure how it would have gone. But on Tom's prep, because this is one thing I talked to him a lot about, the Celesteela was very cool. Banded Celesteela, though, for the win. I'm still in favor of that. But yeah, the Flame Charge Celesteela was very cool. The Thundy was a smart bring. Nido was, again, put into that bulky rock setter that Tom has been getting a bit one-dimensional with, but we'll let him slide this time. He doesn't really have any other great rock setters. I know he has Azelf, but starting battles 5v6 isn't amazing traditionally. That's usually not good. Brought another non-offensive Hitmonlee, so I'm just sitting here shaking my head, like, what can you do? Just bringing non-offensive Mons every week is not helping him out. The guard was something I actually talked to him about, because when he said in his team builder he was debating over Willow, Calm, Mine, Guard, I was the one who recommended Will-O-Wisp's guard to him, and I think it would have been a little bit better this game, because obviously Callum switch-ins were Drill, T-Tar, you can cripple them both with the Will-O-Wisp, preserve your guard for late game, and Callum had nothing on his team to just take guards dual stabs. Basically, it was Aromatisse or nothing. Excadrill, I guess, but if that's Willow, that's not a threat anymore. So Tom, prep was solid. I talked to him about it, but I want to say, like, Tom was, I don't know why he took so long in the middle, because I also did hear Callum say that. I heard Tom, he had a little note at the end of his game, at least, saying that the final, 4 turns took 4 minutes or something like that. But, I mean, Callum did what he had to do to ensure a win. Again, we'll talk about that later when we get to his opponent. We said that plenty of times already. But the rest of the game was very close and back and forth, so I just don't know. I don't have much to say. But I loved the Emboar Celesteela exchange they had in the middle with the dual flame charges going off. But it was a 32-turn battle that lasted over an hour, so I don't want to move Tom too much. I didn't want to move Callum too much either. We'll see what they can do next week. But this game, very weird, very, very weird. But I think we can move on to who I have at number 9, you have at number 8, John, aka Pokemon. Aster, can I say, John is giving me a goddamn roller coaster of emotions this season. I cannot handle this. He took Coupon in his retirement match, and it was such a close game. Aster, I believe we actually played this game on your channel, so I'll plug your channel this time.
Yeah, thank you.
I had John, Aster and I were doing some GBA showcase videos. I had John's team. You had Coop's team. Aster, you want to tell the people how that went?
Yeah, you won with Haze Milotic in the end.
Yeah, so John brought the Haze Milotic. Mine was Flame Orb, but,
Now, keep in mind, Cooper, at the time, did not have a Golbat. Okay? All right.
Yeah, all I'm hearing is excuses, Aster.
Uh-huh. All right, keep going.
So the prep, versus a team like Coop, I really think Specs PZ would have been so much better. Coop's speed tiers are not great, so having him on to just bust through his team would have been super helpful. Sneasel, good bring. I actually kind of liked the banded set he brought. I thought that was really smart versus Coop's team. But yeah, dual Scarfers versus Coop really confused me. I know he was scared of Swellow, but I mean, you saw what Tom did versus Coop. He brought that massive offensive Hitmonlee. Non-offensive Hitmonlee, my bad. He brought a non-offensive Hitmonlee that just tore Coop's team apart because it was a wall breaker. And I think if John would have tried the same thing, he would have had a lot more success this week. Obviously, you can say hindsight 2020, but I mean, just going off of what Tom did, trying to replicate that with your own prep doesn't seem like a bad idea. But the big thing that cost John this game, not preserving his Milotic. That was it. Coop had 1 physical attacker in Scrafty, so losing Milotic so early and not preserving it for Scrafty is probably what cost John this game. I don't know what he could have done maybe to preserve it differently. I think it comes down to playing it differently, maybe prepping a little bit differently. But John just did not make the predictions he needed to with Bulu or with that Scarf PZ again. Maybe E-Belt or something like that would have been better in order to pull himself away from Coop's bulk. And I think that was the turning point in this match.
I still think that he played decently well. I would have liked to see a non-scarfed variant of Bulu, personally, just because he did have a Golbat. Coop did. So, I mean, it's pretty obvious that it was a bring. If he got rocks up, he gets up in SD, he goes for Stone Edge. That thing is pretty much dealt with, essentially. He just needs a little bit of prior damage on it, so I don't agree with that set. But I don't think John played badly at all. I think he almost brought it back in the end game, so realistically he did do a good job at that. The Icicle Crash Flinch, of course, did have a part to play in that. But a game that almost came down to the timer. We'll talk about it when we get to Coop. I really I can't wait to get to Coop, honestly. It's going to be a fun time to discuss him. But I don't think John played badly. I don't think he prepped too badly either. I think having so many choice mons on his team. I think he even had... did he have 3? He had 3 choice mons.
I think it was 3.
Total, yeah. So that really limited him in his options. He was still able to slowly chip away at Coop's team, but I mean, like you said, the Specs PZ would have definitely put in a lot more work. Full Incense, I'm pretty sure he looked it up. Realistically, I watched Coop's side, and he said that maybe he would think it was Lax Incense, but no, I think John's a little bit smarter than that. Again, didn't really look in too heavily to see if John actually said that he knew what Full Incense was, but yeah, so I don't think he prepped terribly. I think definitely a Specs PZ would have put in a lot more work, especially since the speed tiers. Just Cooper's speed tiers on his team are not incredibly high, so you have to know that you can take advantage of that. Maybe it was just strictly for Manaphy. Maybe he was terrified of that. I'm not sure, but I definitely think that a Specs PZ would have put in work. But moving on, next up in our rankings, we have Crimson Seabad and the Detroit Steel Wings at number 7. Once again, showing us that he is a much improved player this season, bringing every correct set. It was just perfect for taking on Steve's team. Honestly, Crimson brought everything right. Scarfed Crook, perfect. Spadef Kieran Black, not Kieran Black, excuse me. Spadef Kieran, perfect. Even Rocky Helmet Sereno was great. Like, Crimson is showing me this season that he knows how to prep for his games effectively. And now he jumps back to a 2-2 record, just like Dan. Kind of fell off there for the last couple of weeks, but we have the Crimson that we know and love back this week, able to take a win over, of course, our number 15 spot. We do have Battler X at number 15. You like to often say that it's based on matchup, but I think that if we continue seeing this great prep from Crimson, and he doesn't choke games away, that he is going to be a huge threat.
I completely agree. Like, you just literally copied my notes, and I know we did not go over notes before this, but I just have one thing to say to Crimson. Can you please calm the fuck down? 2 wins, and in those 2 wins, he has plus 11 differential. Like, his downfall this season will not be differential, I will tell you that right now. But yeah, brought the right Crook set, brought the right Torn set, brought the right Kurum set. That was very fucking cool. Everything just worked the way he wanted it to, and it was very smart brings versus Steve's team. He still had trouble with stuff. I actually think Steve, this was one of his better matchups. I mean, between Xurkitree and Mimikyu, obviously you had the miss, which, you know, happens. I mean, Steve, very unfortunate. Sorry, but it happens. I know, rough. Anyway, a well-trained Crook. Crimson, great job. Even though he was trying to sack it, that's the one thing I have to knock Crimson for. Crimson, I agree completely. He has so much improved this year, it's insane. He's doing so well in his prep, and he's playing his games very, very well. But sacking that Crocodile, after you see how weak Steve's team is to it, he only really has a Swampert that doesn't get recovery. Everything else you can basically 2-shot. That was, I don't necessarily agree with that. I understand being scared of Mimikyu. Mimikyu is a terrifying Pokemon, but I just gotta preserve those win cons, especially when you saw Crook literally clean up the rest of Steve's team in the late game. You don't know how that battle goes if he hits the player off. Crimson was sacking it, so he obviously still had a plan. He had, like we talked about with Steve, the Sylveon could still take a hit from the Xurkitree. So I don't want to say that this battle would have been Crimson's either way. I don't want to say Steve would have won if he had hit the player off, but Crimson, with the way the game turned out, played beautifully, and it was his prep that keeps him so high this week. I agree completely with Aster. He brought all the right sets that worked in all the right ways. So, next up, I believe we get to move on to number 6 for both of us, Callum. I did not move Callum for similar reasons I did not move Tom. Callum's prep was very interesting, very well done in a lot of ways. He basically brought the team he needed to win this game. He brought breakers, he brought things that could sweep Tom's team potentially, like Tom was a little, if Celesteela would potentially go down, which it did to the Emboar, that Excadrill could have been a huge threat to Tom's team. He brought the Rotom. More power to him. Bring it if it has a good matchup, my dude. All of you. There it is. The Emboar set was really cool. I actually I've had Emboar in 2 leagues, and I've never thought to run Flame Charge. So that was a really cool set to see, and I love AVT-Tar. That thing is so ridiculously bulky. It's insane, and you saw it chewing those Moonblasts from that Gardevoir. It was actually crazy. Play, I don't have too much to say about Callum's play. However, the one thing I want to say is I know Callum will probably catch a lot of shit from anyone who's not a fan necessarily of Hoodlum's Crafty for timer stalling in that game. I wouldn't exactly call it timer stalling because he wasn't playing for the timer the whole game. Like we said, it was a 32-turn battle. Tom was kind of lagging it in the middle. Callum definitely lagged it at the end, but this is the GBA. And in the GBA, the only thing that matters is that you pick up the win any way you have to, whether it's a shitty way to win or it's not a shitty way to win. Callum would have had a little trouble late game with the Vaporeon. I recognize that if this game does go the distance. But like I said, GBA, you have to do what you have to do to win, and that is all that matters, is winning, getting into playoffs, and going the distance and winning the championship. It's hard to do that sometimes because people may hate you and you have to play the bad guy, but I'm sure I will get hate for saying it was right of him to do so. But Callum,
no, I don't think that he should get any kind of hate for it because that was his best way to win in the end. If you have a timer and you're going to end up losing and sacking off your win because you don't bring it down to the timer, because essentially they were tied in Mons if he lost them on. So if he didn't do that, if at any given point he would have started playing quickly, more rapidly, he would have eventually lost the Pokemon because Tom still had a lot of options to start getting knockouts. So all the power to you, Callum. Honestly, you did what you had to do. I always respect a player who can do what they have to do in the end game. This is a game where on Wi-Fi, you have a timer, it lasts an hour. Anywhere else, even if you're playing on Showdown, if your only way to win is to get hacks in your favor, then you play for it. There's nobody that should ever be angry at somebody for trying to win. That's ridiculous. And so, for that reason, we have Callum at number 6. I think he would still be at number 6 even if we didn't do what we did, but we'll explain that a little bit later when we get to him, but yeah, we have him at number 6. We're going to keep him here for now. Great record, 3-1, but again, he did beat 2 of our final 2 teams. So, yeah. Moving on. Next up, I think you're starting this one, though.
Yeah, so next up we're talking about George, a.k.a. Septile MC. And George, prepped and played very solid. This is what I expect from George. I'm not surprised to see George bring the sets he needs to in order to win. The one thing I want to talk about really badly with Duncan, actually, that I get to talk about here with George, was that I feel like Duncan brought the mono setup, like I said earlier, and there is not one of us out there who has not played against mono setup in League or on the low ladder, somewhere where they just have 6 mons. You kind of saw that in George's voice, like, oh my gosh, how do I deal with this setup mon? How do I deal with this setup mon? And just watching that, I related so much to just being on the ladder, facing 6 setup mons, be like, all right, how do I deal with this one? And then this one comes in, all right, how do I deal with this one? But George kept his composure very well, bringing T-Spikes and with Drapion and Drapion at all saved George's ass this game. The taunt was nice. I guarantee you George's love of T-Spikes is not going anywhere anytime soon. Scarf Kiss, very smart bring on his part. Duncan doesn't have a Spadef flying dark type mon that can take hits really well, so good bring on George's part, knowing he doesn't have anything like that. Signal Bean Suicune was cool, obvious but cool. Very cool and innovative moveset. That is nothing I would think of in a lifetime. The only thing that I would do, maybe since your team was mostly special attackers, was pass Calm Minds instead of Bulk Up since you had the screens anyway. That was just my MO though. But George played well this game. Dealt with every setup mon he needed to, and got his T-Spikes up early, made predictions, won. GG.
The bulk up still made sense, because I think he wanted to pass it into Garchomp, if I'm not mistaken. You brought very nice sets on everything, though. Like you said, the Screens, Mew, Scarf Kiss, the Suicune was the kind of set you want to see people bring in League format, but never do. George played solidly, and I think calling out the rest of the end game is something that only really good players, ones with experience in counter team format, have. Calling out that rest. That was clutch. A clutch moment. Like, you see something setting up a second bulk up on you. It's on a timer, and it just keeps setting up. Even though it knows, or the player knows, that they're probably not going to be able to sweep with it, you have to assume that it has some form of recovery and can get rid of its status. So kudos to George on that play. That was fantastic. He brought taunt for the Mandibuzz. It ended up saving him the game in the end because of all of Duncan's setup mons. But really nice, George, just again showing us why he's really good in this format, especially with that end game. So
this is why I've actually said that taunt is quickly becoming one of my favorite moves in formats, because people try stuff like Crow Bowl for some reason, and it can save your ass so many times. Like, taunt is so underrated. But you want to talk about the next guy?
Yeah, next up we have, well, I have Chimp at 4. You have him at 2. Chimp, he didn't actually move down for me, guys, and you'll see it on the next slide. But Chimp is technically 3rd for me this week. Chimp just, again, playing a super solid game. I don't have a lot to say about Chimp because he ends up winning games, even though I critique him on his strange EV spreads that to me don't make any sense because you know what your opponent is bringing. Somehow it ends up saving him a game, and that's just incredible. It's a little shifty, not going for knockoff to get rid of the Scarf with his Azumarill onto the Magearna, even though he could Aqua Jet it after and it would still be in range of the Earthquake because he knew that it was Scarfed and it was more than likely not so bulky. That kind of weirded me out, the fact that he made that play. Not knowing how much speed the Magearna had, realistically, he was kind of just banking on Modest, which that to me, that kind of sets off an alarm in my head. But again, like I just said, what can you say about a player that is 3-1 and finds a way to win regardless? That's what I have to say about Chimp.
I mean, I stand by everything I've said about Chimp up until this point through the weeks, and that's why when I put him at 2, until he proves to me he does not deserve to be number 2, he will stay at number fucking 2. So I understand he got a little bit lucky this week with his EV spreads. Call it luck, call it whatever you want. I don't care. Chimp has a plan and executes it. I've said it before, I'll say it again. He knows what needs to be done in order to win, that is the sign of a deadly fucking player, regardless of the hacks. I mean, cool Thundy set, not the bulk up rest talk Thundy we've so used to seeing the horrors of, but physical Thundy always cool. Not maximizing those EVs on Dougie saved his life, no doubt. We both acknowledge that. I think Chimp was even a little surprised to outspeed that Magearna at the end. Buried offensive core between the Volk and the Kyurem was cool. It was like Wakan and Haban, so both dealt with the Lottie, which was really, really cool. But Chimp, the only thing I can say, he's still struggling to use that Kyurem Black. That's the only thing I can really fault him on. I don't think it's definitely hasn't gotten 2 kills this season. I don't know if it's gotten 1. But the Azu was good. Played a very close game. Again, interesting way to play Kyurem Black, switching it in on a Latias. But Chimp does what he has to do, preserves what he has to does to get himself a real shot at winning any game he's in. And Chimp acknowledged the mistakes he made that game at the end. He was talking about how he played bad, so I give him that. He knows what he needs to do to fix and play better. He is a good player, and I have all the confidence in the world he can come back from any battle.
And he still comes out with a win, which is crazy.
Exactly.
All right, so moving on to the Homage. Jar,
yes.
You are a much bigger fan of our friend than I am. Even though I love this man, but I'll let you go.
Our recently departed coach, Cooper Kashiro, we have him at number 3. We wanted to put him at number 1, but Cooper loves to be at number 3. So Cooper is number 3 this week. And I just have to say, man, this guy, he has given the GBA a lot of good years, a lot of good times, a lot of smiles, Inferno, Charizard X. This man has brought Water Pulse Blissey. This man knows what he's doing when he is bringing his sets, and he will be dearly missed by all of us here. I started watching the GBA around Season 4, checked out all the coaches, and one of the guys I came across was Cooper Kashiro, and he did not have good quality. I was like, should I even watch this guy? And then after I watched one video, I knew I had to watch the rest of his videos. Became a Jasmine fan ever since, not subscribed, but this man, he will be missed. I love this guy. Coop, wish you the best wherever you're going. We welcome Necro Steve into the league next week, but this week we have Cooper at number 3 to pay homage to the Utah Jasmine.
Yeah, Coop's just coming out with a solid game this week. We already talked about it when we talked about John, but I too started watching Cooper in Season 5, actually, and I immediately noticed that terrible quality, but I just love it. It's so alluring now. Like, it's actually, it's something that I want to go back. I want to watch all his games again because Cooper has just done so much for this league. He's been there. He plays his games. You guys don't see this, but he updates his statistics, his kills, his deaths. He's always there for that, and he's just very reliable. He's going to be missed greatly, and we were glad to have you on board, Coop. bid you an adieu, as we say in French. But now we move on, and we wish you luck in your future endeavors, whatever you may do.
Yep.
So, moving on. Actually, this is, I'm not supposed to be talking about MV first, but I will, because I have him at number 2, and you have him at number 4. So, I have MV a little bit higher, because MV... Well, for one, MV is hilarious. His commentary is just absolutely great. He, at the beginning of the game, sacking off his Magnezone and it just wouldn't die because Geo just wouldn't kill it was hilarious. It just sat there. He was trying to sack it, and then as soon as the Trick Room went up, that's when I started laughing. Like, a second week in a row, somebody sets up Trick Room for MV. It was intentional for Geo to actually sweep him, but it was just really funny to see. And MV again coming through, using a mon that people disregard because of its 4x weakness in Virizion, and really utilizing it well. We saw him use Keldeo, one of the Musketeers last season, a mon that was extremely frowned upon in League format, and didn't have a very high value because it was very one-dimensional, and MV took it above and beyond that, and I feel like he can do that with Virizion as well, or any mon that he uses, because MV is one of the most creative people in this league, and I love watching his games, not only because I'm an MV fanboy and I watch his other content, but I love to see what he comes up with week after week. Great performance again by MV. He's up to 3-1, and I'm sure it's only going to keep going from here.
Yeah, I have to agree. MV did good. He didn't really move down in my rankings either, but we obviously have to have Cooper at 3, so MV's my number 4 this week. Scarf Lando, every week, all weeks, or Yachi, one of the two. Empoleon was smart, good bring. Empoleon, as it does Empoleon things, dies. Virizion, very smart bring on MV's part, actually. You look at Geo's team, besides Arcanine and Gar, Virizion literally destroys everything else, and he recognized the damage it could actually do. MV has really pulled me around on the Muck, though. Like, watching him use Muck and, like, just seeing that thing in action in these last few weeks, I'm just like, God, that thing is so good. Mag set, very smart running Magnet Rise. I really understand that. Magnet Rise on the Mags is very underrated. But regarding MV's play, I don't know how to evaluate MV's play, I feel, because I feel like every week I'm just less evaluating his play and more evaluating his opponent, Geo, John. I don't actually know what to fucking say about MV. I guess he makes the play he needs to. It seems like he makes tries to make a sack or something, or just makes his straightforward switch-ins, and suddenly those become the turning points in the match. But MV, the people are starting to recognize a pattern versus your team, so you have to be a little more careful. Trick Room or a Scarfer of something you can't switch into is going to be dangerous for your team. You can prep around it. I know you can. You're very smart. But you got to recognize that and continue to deal with it. You've done well so far. We'll see if it can continue, but that is all I have for MV this week.
I think MV chose his YouTube name very well, because for some reason it's just very threatening. And people have trouble when they play MV. I think they panic. And they automatically break down and they start making plays that they shouldn't. We saw it with John, now we saw it with Geo. And I think it's everybody. Everybody that plays MV knows how good he is, knows how good he can be. He helped Dan get his championship, so he's scary. He's very scary, and I understand that for any coach that's taking him on. But you guys, you gotta calm down. You gotta think twice about the moves that you make against this guy. Don't let him just sit at the top. Show him what you've got as well. But love you,
but
MV.
Aster,
keep it up.
As scary as MV is, I think there's a man on both of our power rankings who we both deem to be scarier at this specific point in time.
We weren't going to put him in first. We weren't going to put him in first because of Cooper, but because we put Cooper in third, once again, Monotui is our number 1.
I'm just going to tell you again, my notes haven't changed. They're the same. They're the same.
They're going to be the same 12 weeks straight, I can tell you that right now.
Till he fucking loses, they will be. But Mono does what Mono did. Took down another very solid battler in Gator this week. Made all the plays he needed to. Prepped very, very well. Brought a great Rosary. The Buzzwole was very, very good. I guess it's bulkier than Skarmory Aster. Did you know that? I just think I need Mono to say it 40 fucking more times. But, Mono, you're doing fine. I have nothing to critique you on. You are playing very, very well. The Spec-Scren was actually a really good bring with Gator. Gator said he didn't really see it. I completely saw it. Besides Whimsicott, he did not have a water resist really on that team to take those hits from Greninja. So that was a very smart bring on, in my opinion. Mono, you're doing fine. Just keep doing what you're doing, and you will continue to come first for 2 guys at the same time until the end of the GBA season.
Yeah, no, Mono just, and it's even his commentary, you listen to him explain his play-by-play, and it's really, really insightful, and it gives you a good idea on what his thought process is. I think he's one of the best at that. I really enjoy watching his battles back because they make me feel inferior, I guess, as a player. He's really good. He's fantastic, and he just, again, did everything that he needed to do. Fired off a hydro pump, didn't care about missing, just knocked out the heat ran, which could have been a huge problem to him later on in the game, especially for his Scarfed Rachi, but he was able to get rid of it early, prevent rocks from going up, as that was Gator's only rocker, and he just took it from there, and he made all the switches that he needed to, kept his Mantine alive long enough, dealt with the Hawlucha the best way he could. He going for E-Speed with Zygarde as well was something that really impressed me. Like, again, going back to his commentary on his videos, explaining that he could have gone for 1,000 arrows into E-Speed and knocked out the Hawlucha. However, if he got crit by high jump kick, he wouldn't have gotten any damage off, and it wouldn't have been in range of Water Shuriken potentially. So things like that really, really impress me when you have a player of his caliber. Of course, the miss high jump kick, by the way, guys, definitely, of course, that sucks for Gator, but I think that Mono had it in the end. He sets himself up for wins beautifully. He's one of the best at that, and this is another one that if he continues to win, will also prove Dallas's bold prediction incorrect, and somebody will be at 6-0 by the time we hit halfway through the season.
Yeah, we're 2 weeks away, and I just gotta say, man, a lot of people underestimated Monotui coming into this season. If you did not know about this guy before, you know about him now, because this man went undefeated in the PPL, and then he comes to GBA with a team he did not draft and almost makes playoffs after giving an 0-2 record. How could you not think this man was just going to go off this season with a team he drafted, and how good of a battler he actually is?
And
this man,
he just keeps getting even better too. Like,
he really does.
Yeah, no,
But
and next week, let's hope that George, please be the first to take down Mono.
Oh, that's gonna be a good game.
That's
Mono
gonna be an
versus
amazing
George.
game.
Oh, okay, fans, look out for that one. We'll see which of them drops out of the top 5. But until then, I believe that is all 16 teams. We actually got it done pretty fast. Maybe we won't get any comments this week, Aster. Who knows?
Yeah, of course. And guys, I hope you did enjoy. If you did, make sure to leave a like down below. Subscribe to the GBA channel if you haven't already, to make sure that you catch these power rankings and all the other videos that go up on this channel throughout the week. Really give you the full insight on every match and every coach as well. Make sure to check out all the coaches in the description down below to not miss a second of the action. And we will see you next week.
All right, later, guys.